Another tense Oval Office confrontation tops our world lead. This time, President Trump welcomed South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa says he came to D.C. to reset the relationship between the United States and South Africa. It's a relationship that soured after President Trump expedited refugee status for 59 white South Africans earlier this month, claiming that South Africa is persecuting its white minority, particularly white farmers. Joining us now, it's Tshidi Madia. She's an editor at Eyewitness News and was in today's Oval Office meeting. Eyewitness News is in Johannesburg?
Eyewitness News is a media house in Johannesburg, provides news to at least 4 radio stations and an online platform.
Okay, great. So President Trump had his aides queue up a video that he claimed showed that there is persecution against white South Africans. Let's just run a little clip of it.
Turn the lights down and just put this on. It's right behind you.
So for people who saying kill the Boer, that's a reference to white South Africans, basically, or people of what, Dutch ancestry? How would you describe it?
I think it depends on who you're asking. Okay. What does it mean, kill the Boer?
Yeah, well, tell me what it means. Kill the Boer, kill the farmer.
I need to put it in historical context,
yes,
to be fair.
Please.
It is a song stemming from the apartheid era. The Boer, the farmer, equated to the system that was in charge, an oppressive regime at that. So that song, that chant was about killing that particular system. It's been a contentious song, and we continue to go back and forth about its relevance in modern day South Africa, because you're now in democratic South Africa. But you also have the constitutional courts and the laws saying that actually it is very much in line with freedom of speech in the political space, that there is relevance for those kind of things about who and what we are. Now it's a question really about whether or not it's distasteful to continue chanting, shoot the, kill the Boer, the farmer, as opposed to actually an instruction to actually go out and target farmers.
Well, when there is actual violence against white farmers and black farmers too, of course, is it not questionable to be chanting that?
I did say to you there's a question and a back and forth on the question of whether it's tasteful or not.
But I'm asking you.
Whether it's not relevant or not. That's what South Africans are trying to debate.
What do you think?
I go back and forth about what that is. I'm a journalist. I'm an observer like you.
Right.
So I don't have a skin in the game to say what's wrong or right about this particular chant. I think that the Constitution and the democracy does allow for it. I think South Africa also needs to be understood as an incredibly robust and loud democracy. We are that. We thrive ourselves as a nation on how free we are. We relish that freedom. Has a ton of problems, Jake. There are no questions that South Africa is shrouded in problems. But part and parcel of that is that. So the question becomes, should you continue singing the song? Is it tasteful at a time like this when race relations are starting to intensify again? And it's fringe groups that are spurring this on. Your Afri-Forums are fringe groups that didn't even find an audience today, didn't find a space in Trump's performance today. I was in the Oval Office. It paid no mind, but there is a question about whether or not this is what you need to continue doing. And that's one that Julius Malema has been asked quite often by even black leaders, political leaders, and commentators have said, is this what you should be doing at this point in time? But there are those who agree that actually it is harmless, that it's got its place in history, and that it can still exist. Again, that's an argument that still goes back and forth in the country.
So do you think President Ramaphosa was prepared for President Trump to press him on this?
I have interesting views about whether I felt that South Africa's delegation was prepared, or at least prepared enough. I do think that they knew that they were walking into a trap.
They did, yeah, okay.
I don't think that they were clueless. They were confident. At times, I'd even say to them, it sometimes feels like a little bit too confident. We've seen what Donald Trump does. The one thing that's a marker of the US president right now is uncertain, unpredictable, and we tend to know that he relies on tricks to prove a point. And so I do think that they did understand. Did they expect to see a screen come up and a visual reference to what he's claiming is happening in South Africa? I don't think so. I also just very quickly, Jake, if you let me, want to speak about the visuals. You cannot for a second claim that there's genocide and that's what you produce. South Africa claims that there's genocide happening in Palestine, that Israel is guilty. Goes to the ICJ, is asked to provide evidence of this. And what do? They provide wads and wads and wads of evidence. Donald Trump claims that there is supposedly a genocide in South Africa. What does he do to prove it? To put up chants of Julius Malema? Surely that devastation exists. In that particular room, you had South Africans saying, we have a problem crime is rampant in the country. You've had Zingiswa Losi, who's head of COSATU, which is the labor federation, the largest one, describing the atrocities being visited upon the elderly women in South Africa. Everybody recognizes there's a problem. It isn't targeted at particular people. For me, for the life of me, a president of the US, with everything he's got access to try and prove a point about what's happening, that's all you could produce today. I found that interesting.
Yeah, we should just note that obviously the government of Israel and the government of the United States deny that there's a genocide in Gaza right now, but I take your point as to evidence.
But you should have shown something different.
Evidence versus words. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your being here. Thank you for joining us at Tshidi, Madia.